The VCSE Barometer survey. The sector's regular temperature check. Informed by VCSE organisations for VCSE organisations nationwide. Unlock insights for impact.
Good afternoon and welcome to wave 14 of the VCSE Barometer. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Daniel King, Professor of Organisational Studies at Nottingham Trent University, and leading the team for the VCSE Observatory. So we're just going to talk through the, for those of you that haven't seen it then, the barometer is designed as real-time insights for the sector. It's very much a temperature check of what's going on to provide up-to-date evidence about people's experiences and challenges and the opportunities that's facing the sector across the UK. We designed that alongside voluntary community, social enterprise and faith-based organisations, a variety of different stakeholders, to try to capture what the challenges and the realities and the priorities are of the sector. And we feed our data through to decision makers, policy makers, funders and foundations and others, and to try to identify what some of the challenges and emerging issues that are facing the sector and where support is needed most. So the survey is a quarterly survey. Once a year we ask organisations their annual questions, sort of just key metrics, income, expenditure, legal status, location, that type of thing. But we try to keep it as short as possible, so we only ask that once. We then have a set of core questions that we repeat each wave, looking at demand, capacity and finances. That means that we can track things over time. And then we have our topical questions as well, which we change every quarter, focusing on the most pressing issues that are affecting the sector. And for all of that, then organisations that participate get back an individualised report, which allows them to see how their organisation compares to others. We've got a public dashboard, which is a data visualization that you can capture and see some of the trends by size and location across time. And then we also have reports, webinars like this, where you have a chance to explore some of the topics in a little bit more detail. So the barometer dashboard then looks a bit like this. It allows you to sort of map that over time and get sort of filter it by size and location, etc. as well. We've also got the individualized reports where you can see how your organisation fares against others. So on these slides then, the ones in orange compare the responding organisation to the sector as a whole, and we've been developing that up over time. We would love some feedback and ideas around those things as well. And then this just gives a quick snapshot over wave 14. Ben, did you want to say a little bit about this, and then I'll just talk a bit about the topical side?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we ask a range of core questions each wave. Some of them about concerns, some of them about financial position, some of them about demand and workforce challenges. And there's typically not a huge amount of change each wave. But we have noticed a few trends in the past few waves. So one of them is inflation of goods and services and energy prices. And we'll talk about some of the questions that we asked in the last wave about the implications of the conflict in the Middle East and the potential role of that in those top concerns. Income generation, always the top concern. Rise in demand is always up there as well. Around half of people said that rise in demand is the top concern. In terms of financial position, that's worsened slightly since the last wave. We had kind of an even split in the last one, with around a third of each saying that it had either improved, was unchanged, or deteriorated. In this one, it shifted more, so we've got around 2 and 5 that saying the financial position has deteriorated. Around 57%, so about 3 and 5, said that the financial position has deteriorated due to rising costs, and as a result of that, almost half have said that they have unexpectedly had to use their reserves. Around a third said that they've had to increase the price of services, and just over a quarter said that they had to increase volunteer responsibilities or hours. In terms of demand for services, Again, it's very similar each wave. It's usually between 3 and 5, and 2/3 said that demand has increased over the past 3 months. In this wave, actually, we've seen a bit of an uptick in the proportion of organisations saying they expect to fall short in meeting that demand. So last wave, it was around 31%. This wave, it's 44%. So more than 2 in 5 expect to fall short in meeting that demand. In terms of workforce challenges, again, a few changes. So typically we see volunteer recruitment and retention as more significant than staff recruitment and retention. This wave, we've seen a bit of an uptick in staff recruitment and retention challenges. So almost a third saying they're experiencing recruitment difficulties with staff, more than a third retention difficulties with staff, around half experiencing recruitment difficulties with volunteers, which is similar each wave, and just under a third saying the same for retention of volunteers. In terms of the consequences of workforce shortages, almost half saying that volunteers are increasing their hours. Around a third have had to pause some operations, and a similar proportion are unable to meet demand because of workforce shortages. So pass back to you, Daniel.
That gives you a bit of an overview, and you can drill into some of that data in the dashboards. We put in the link as well then. So this way we've been talking about the relationship with government, which I think is really timely, given that yesterday we have a new Prime Minister being appointed, and as part of what Burnhamism is about then is, I think, a real shift to from the centre of government, is this at least what he's talking about, towards more regional and local government as well. And we've also got, as some of you might be aware, then the Covenant, which is looking to try to reset the relationship between the sector and different aspects of the state as well. So this is a really good opportunity to drill into a little bit about the relationship with government. What does that mean? Looking at those different levels, trying to get some of the ideas from both the Covenant, and also thinking about just that ability to influence and shape behaviour as well. And I think we'll go into some of the details of this, but the big story really is that the more local and connected the sort of relationship is, then the stronger the relationship. So overall, much stronger relationship with local government than with national government as well. And that is quite interesting, I think, in the context of the political changes that are at least being talked about by Andy Burnham yesterday in his speech as well. So that's what the focus of this wave is. And just with this one side, and then Ben will go on to this, but I think this one just overall tells, to me, my mind, the big story, where relationship and people's levels of engagement far stronger with the local authorities than they are with UK government as well. So Ben, over to you.
Yeah, like Daniel said, I mean, as we kind of go through these slides, it is definitely a place-based strength in terms of relationships. And I mean, some of that does come down to size. So we do see that, you know, larger organisations are more likely to engage with UK government. But actually, when you look at the, you know, different metrics on the relationships between VCSE organisations and different levels of government, typically it is stronger the more local level that it gets. So one of the first questions that we asked, just to get an understanding of the extent to which VCSE organisations engage with different levels of government, is, you know, how much do you engage with different levels of government? So 2/3 engage either regularly or occasionally with their local authority, and that's compared to around a third with their regional, combined or mayoral authority, and around a fifth with UK government departments or agencies. So much less engagement with UK government. So for each level of government that organisations said they engaged with, we asked them the extent to which they agree with a number of statements about the relationships. And I've put the link to the dashboard in the chat. So we haven't included all of them here. And all we've done here is included the percentage of organisations that agree with these different statements for the different levels of government. So in turquoise here, we've got local authority, and that's for each of the statements. Blue, we've got regional, and then dark blue, we've got UK government. So in terms of the overall relationship, we can see that around 3 and 5 said that they have a positive overall relationship with their local authority. Around a third said the same for regional or combined authority, and just over a quarter said the same for UK government. It's more of a level playing field for when we asked whether engagement was important to organisations achieving their objectives. A majority said, for all levels of government, said that engagement was important, slightly more so for local authorities, so around 3/4, as you can see, compared to around 3 and 5 for both regional and UK level. In terms of knowing how and where to engage, probably to be expected, more than 3/4 said that they agree that they know how and where to engage with the local authority, whereas that's around half for regional and UK level. In terms of having a voice in decisions, just under half said that they agree that they do with local authorities, around a quarter for regional, and less than a fifth for UK government. In terms of whether that input influences decisions, around 2 and 5 said they agree for the local authority, around a quarter for the regional, and around a fifth for UK wide. So again, as Daniel said at the start, the trend is definitely stronger for local authority, and it kind of slides down somewhat as it gets towards UK government.
I think, so just go back to that last slide, Ben, I think also it tells a bit of a story there about organisations feel that they know how to engage, but they don't necessarily feel they've got a voice and that their input influences things as well. So I think that's quite a distinct shift between people feeling it's important, they know how to do it, but they don't really feel that their actual voice makes a difference in terms of the decisions as well.
Yeah. And so given that many organisations feel they don't actually have a voice or often influence beyond local government, we know the importance of local and national infrastructure organisations in the role of ensuring that the voice of the sector is heard at local and regional and national level. So we asked if and how organisations engage indirectly with government as well, and more than 2 in 5 said that they engage indirectly with government through VCSE networks or partnerships, through local infrastructure organisations, and just below 2 in 5 said that they do so through national infrastructure organisations or representative bodies. Well, just under a third did so through alliances or cause-specific campaigns, and just over a quarter said that they don't engage with government through other organisations or bodies, and most of these were smaller and micro organisations in groups who possibly just don't feel the need to engage with government at all. So the next set of questions that we asked were tied to the civil society government, which is a shared set of principles to guide partnership working between the UK government and civil society. And as Daniel mentioned at the beginning, with the new Prime Minister, it's not entirely clear what will happen with the covenant going forward. It was intended as a reset in the relationship between government and civil society, but there are wider questions, I think, of how government and civil society can build a stable relationship when we've had that many different prime ministers over the past sort of 7-8 years. So the first thing we asked was how familiar organisations were with the covenant, and almost half said they weren't familiar at all. Around 2 in 5 said that they were either somewhat or not so familiar, and there was only around 1 in 10 that were extremely or very familiar with the covenant. So just going back to those covenant principles, so what we did was we turned those principles into a set of measurable statements to understand if and how different levels of government were adherent to those principles. And these principles are based around recognition of value, partnership and collaboration, participation and inclusion, and transparency. And again, the full data is in the dashboard. There's just too much to display here for all the different levels, so we've kind of pulled out some of the key findings. So similar to the questions around the relationship, organisations seem to feel that their local authorities were much stronger in adhering to a range of principles. So when asked if different levels of government understood and valued their role, see that over 2/3 there said that their local authority does, and that's compared to 1/3 of those saying that regional or combined authorities understood and valued their role, and under 1/5 of UK government. We also then asked whether the different levels of government provide early and ongoing opportunities to engage with them. So you can see there, 2 in 5 said that this was provided by the local authority. A quarter said it was provided by a regional, and around 1 in 10 said that this was provided by UK government. So not much opportunity to engage early there. Similar results for ensuring that communities, including those that are underrepresented, are involved in planning and decisions. Around 2 in 5 said that local authorities did that. Around 1 in 7 regional, and again around 1 in 10 UK. We asked whether different levels of government engaged in an open, honest and transparent way. More than 2 in 5 said that local authorities did that. Just under a quarter said that regional level did that. And around 1 in 8 said that UK did that. And as to be expected, funding is always a problem and a challenge. And so we asked whether different levels provided funding arrangements that support long-term sustainability. And just over 1 in 4 said that local authorities did. And as you can see there, much fewer said that of regional and UK-wide government. Okay, so what we then asked was some questions around the local elections that were going on at the time, and that obviously feels like quite a long time ago now, given everything that's happened. So we asked it in terms of that backdrop, how they expected the relationship and engagement with government overall to change over the next 12 months. And around sort of 3 in 5 to 2/3 expected to stay the same across a range of these statements here. So knowing how and where to engage, receiving information in good time, having a voice in decisions. But then equally, we've got around 1/3 across the board that are saying they expect this to deteriorate over the next 12 months. And you can see here that this is slightly higher for trust in government overall. We don't know whether these outcomes might have changed if people knew that Burnham was coming in, whether they'd have changed for the better or changed for the worse. We're not sure, but yeah, very few expected these different aspects of the relationship to improve over the next 12 months. We then asked what organisations want government to place priority on over the next 12 months, and unsurprisingly, more sustainable funding was top there. So 8 in 10 want government to place high priority on more sustainable funding. A better understanding of the sector, so almost 3/4 want government to have just a better understanding and value of the sector. Again, linked to more sustainable funding, simpler and fairer funding processes for the sector. And over half said that they want action on rising need and pressure, especially when you've got that rising need without matched resources. There were also just under half saying that they want stronger partnership working and more engagement with government and with the sector. And fewer said better support for volunteering, but even then, you've got almost 3/4 placing either medium or high priority. So very few people said that these were low priority or shouldn't be prioritised at all. So one of the final things that we asked in terms of the government questions was around the biggest concerns about government in the future. And again, the outcomes of this might have changed if people knew that there's going to be a change in Prime Minister. But what was top was 3 in 5 people saying that uncertainty or disruption arising from changes in local government leadership structures or responsibilities was the biggest concern. Next is similar proportion said insufficient government support for wider economic pressures affecting organisations such as rising energy costs, which we'll get to in a second, was a big concern about the future, and uncertainty about future government funding. And then again, linking back to the last slide, there's a concern around government not really understanding the sector. So you'll have noticed if you participated in the last wave that we also asked some questions on the implications of the conflict in the Middle East and whether you were experiencing a financial impact as a result of this, or whether you expected to going forward. So one of the first questions that we asked here was whether the financial impact due to the conflict in the Middle East has had an impact, and around half said that it had no negative impact so far. However, as I said right at the start, we did see an uptick in the people concerned about energy prices, and that's the highest that it's been for a long time. Inflation of goods and services. So it could well be that people aren't necessarily associating the implications of the Middle East with those things. Around a quarter said that they've experienced a minor negative impact, and a fifth said that they've experienced a moderate negative impact. And we'll be repeating those questions as well in the wave that's ongoing at the moment, so we can see whether any of this has changed. And we then asked organisations how much financial impact they're experiencing or expect to experience in the next 6 to 8 months for a range of pressures that may emerge as a result of the conflict. So you can see down the y-axis here, we've got a range of these pressures. And the red bar is those saying they are already experiencing a significant financial impact from that pressure. The orange one is those saying that they expect that pressure to have a significant impact over the next 6 to 8 months. And then again, a moderate impact over the next 6 to 8 months, and then either no impact or a minor impact over the next 6 to 8 months. So the current impacts are based around higher costs. So energy, fuel, transport, goods, materials, those are all the things that around a quarter of organisations are saying are already having a significant impact, with about an extra third of organisations expecting this to become significant over the next 6 to 8 months. The next wave of concerns is around income. So with around a fifth saying that reduced income from grants, fundraising and donations is having a significant impact. And then between sort of a third and 2/5 expecting these to have a significant impact in the next 6 to 8 months. Around 1 in 5 say they're seeing greater demand for services without matching resources having a current impact, and around 1 in 3 say that this will have a significant impact in the future. There are slightly fewer that say that financial resilience has been impacted at the moment, but almost 2 in 5 are concerned that this will become a significant impact in the future. They seem less concerned about reduced contract or commissioning income, so around half don't expect this to necessarily become a big problem in the future. So sort of between a quarter and a fifth are already experiencing some significant impacts here, but around a third to 2/5 are expecting those to become significant as well in the future. What we also did was we had a quick look at the profile of the organisations that were potentially more exposed to these pressures, and of those reporting a moderate and a major current financial impact, that was more common among medium and large organisations, and again among those with paid staff, which is more common among medium and large they have bigger operations, possibly more likely to have premises, etc. And it's higher where reserves are less than 6 months, which again is to be expected. As I said, the current pressures around rising costs, transport costs, vary by size and staffing. So I mean, what we seem to be seeing at the moment is medium and large organisations reporting more pressure than small organisations. But as I said earlier, that could be potentially because they're not necessarily linking the two together yet. And then the final thing we asked was whether organisations were planning or have already made changes in response to these pressures, and more than 1 in 3 said that they've already made or are planning to make changes. And these were based around a few different areas. So tighter financial control and contingency planning, income diversification, workforce and volunteer pressures, and changes in the workforce dynamics, restructuring services and outreach, and then some more practical cost saving measures. So we've seen quite a lot of people say the usual, we're tightening the belt, we're doing more budget monitoring, we're delaying spending in certain areas and projects. A lot of people have kind of reallocated different members of staff onto increasing and diversifying fundraising efforts. Some are increasing the prices of their services. Some are reducing the number of services, so those that are using transport and not doing as much outreach, which can obviously affect those that live in more remote or rural areas. And then those that have premises are reducing their energy use, so turning heating off at certain times of day when they can. Okay, I'll close these slides down.
See where you are in the big picture. Stay ahead of the curve. Join a community of changemakers. Amplify your voice. Drive collaboration and innovation. Sign up for the survey. Have your say. And influence action where it counts. For you. Your input matters.